Dominic Breazeale says he hopes to get the Wilder Fury winner by next summer. This is yet another obstacle which would get in the way of a Joshua versus Wilder unification or a Joshua versus Fury unification. We've already heard from several sources that there is a two-way rematch clause for Wilder versus Fury. So when you throw in the mandatory challenger, Dominic Breazeale, on top of that, you would have to imagine that that vastly reduces the chances of Joshua versus Wilder or Joshua versus Fury happening in April. And the Wilder and Fury camps know this. But they're acting as though it's all on Joshua, the reason why this fight may not happen. No, it's on them. Two-way rematch clause, plus they've got a mandatory. And this mandatory has been waiting for a long time. Dominic Breazeale's been waiting, what, a year now for his mandatory shot? Yeah, about a year, I believe. Well, several months at least, anyway, for his mandatory shot, because he was supposedly made mandatory after he beat Eric Molina. And this just shows you exactly why Dillian Whyte didn't want to take the Ortiz fight. Because Breazeale is the mandatory. And if Dillian Whyte had fought Ortiz, it would have made him second mandatory. So he wouldn't have got his mandatory shot until after Dominic Breazeale got his mandatory shot. So Breazeale's going to have to wait, what? Damn near 2 years, a year and a half to get his mandatory shot at a minimum. And then Dillian Whyte would have to wait, what, maybe a year after that as well? And we already saw the messages that Deontay Wilder sent to Dillian Whyte where he said, I'm going to make you wait 2 years for your shot. So if he's saying, I'm going to make you wait 2 years for your shot, why would Dillian Whyte go ahead and fight Luis Ortiz when he's going to have to wait 2 years for his shot after beating Ortiz? It makes no sense. Why take such a risk when the reward is so far away? That's totally ridiculous. It makes no sense for Dillian Whyte to be fighting Ortiz unless he's going to get his shot next. And Dillian Whyte always said that if you make me the number one mandatory, the first mandatory, I'll fight Ortiz and I'll fight the winner of Wilder Fury next year. He's already said this. He even approached the WBC and said that to the WBC, you need to make me mandatory. Or make the winner of me versus Ortiz the number one mandatory ahead of Breazeale, then I'll fight Ortiz. This is what he said all along. Because he ain't trying to wait 2.5 years to get his... It's ridiculous. Like, anyone who thinks that it's reasonable for Dillian Whyte to want to take on Luis Ortiz when he's going to get his shot probably 2.5 years from now or 2 years from now, or you know, a year and a half, let's say, if you count, you know, the time that's already spent. It's like, come on, man. That's not reasonable. And like I say, it throws yet another obstacle in the way of Joshua versus Wilder happening. The mandatory situation, the two-way rematch clause. So, yeah, and this is what Wilder and Fury are not talking about. Why don't they mention this? Why don't they mention the fact that there's a two-way rematch clause which would get in the way? You see, Fury has let it slip a couple times that there is a two-way rematch clause, as has his trainer Ben Davison, apparently. From what people have told me in interviews that he's done. And Frank Warren was very cagey on the subject. He didn't give a straight answer on it, which is interesting in itself. So, a two-way rematch clause, why are Wilder and Fury not talking about the fact that that would get in the way of either one of them fighting Anthony Joshua in April? How come none of them are talking about that? And they're definitely not talking about the fact that Breazeale could also get in the way of the fight happening even next summer. Or next September it could get in the way of it because Breazeale's trying to put his foot down and get his mandatory shot. So, and I know that unifications trump mandatories. That's one thing the WBC do allow for, is unifications trumping mandatories. But it all is dependent on the mandatory challenger agreeing to step aside. Yeah, they don't have to step aside. They're given a deal whereby we'll pay you this amount of money to step aside, and then we can go ahead with our unification. If he doesn't want to step aside, it can go to court and he can force the shot. People don't understand that that can happen. The mandatory challenger doesn't have to accept step aside money. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.